Let's hit it. Hoot Productions presents the Sports Deli Podcast, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, where we discuss the intersection between race and sports, mental health, leadership, and equality. To find out more about the Sports Deli Podcast, check us out online at thesportsdelipodcast.com.
Women last year changed the course of this nation. Women are the backbone, and now we need to support the souls that they stand on.
And now, whether you're folding laundry, driving, exercising, or cooking, grab your favorite deli sandwich or bagel and your favorite beverage, and let's do this together in the Sports Deli. Auntie, take us away. Hey everyone, Hoot, host and producer of the Sports Deli Podcast. And a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. And if you aren't aware, typically our format is guest-driven. We do a lot of listening, and we've done a lot of learning. And we've had a few special additions to the Sports Deli Podcast where everyone deserves a seat at the table that have centered around Black Lives Matter and Breonna Taylor and Tony La Russa when he was first hired, and a couple of others. And so today, I feel like I have a responsibility to discuss a couple of things, not necessarily in the order of which they happened. But the more I looked at various news reports regarding this issue and thinking about the bigger picture and just the way that my mind works now when it comes to being a little bit more sensitive to women, to people of color, to the Asian communities, and all of the things typically that have happened since the murder of George Floyd. And we've pivoted with our show from talking simply sports to going a little bit deeper and talking about the intersection between race and sports, social injustice, white privilege, leadership, mental health, and equality. And so when I looked at ESPN.com to see what some of the breakdowns were of Game 3 of the WNBA Finals, I couldn't find it at first glance. And that was a little bit confusing. And then I sort of gave ESPN a little bit of grace, and I said to myself, well, maybe they just haven't updated the website. Well, it's been several hours since the game ended, where the Chicago Sky took a 2-1 lead and literally throttled, suffocated, demolished, woman-handled the Phoenix Mercury to take a 2-1 lead in the best-of-5 series in Chicago before a sellout crowd, where there were some unbelievable people in attendance, from the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, to others. And I'll talk about them in a second. And not to mention the historic finals that this has become between two of the greatest players in the history of the WNBA. Diana Taurasi for the Phoenix Mercury and Candace Parker, who came home from Los Angeles this offseason to join the Chicago Sky to try and bring home their first ever WNBA championship. And leading the Chicago Sky is James Coco Wade, who, to be transparent, was on our show for a 2-part series. It was an incredibly polarizing conversation that we had about a number of topics. And the more that I've gotten to know him and watch his team and just see how he coaches and how he handles these amazing women and the game planning, I've watched a lot of games in my 30 years of coaching, and he's right up there at the top in all those areas that I just mentioned. Game preparation, scouting, in-game adjustments, coming out of timeouts. He has been spot on this year. And they started the season 0-7. And he has put a magical team together with unbelievable chemistry and an amazing defense. And so, to my point earlier, I couldn't find anything on ESPN.com. I had to scroll down to 3 stories before finally arriving at the story about Game 3. You want to know what was above? ALCS Game 1 between Houston and Boston. Is that more deserving than Game 3 of the WNBA Finals? I guess you could argue maybe. The Cal Berkeley Bears, who are 1-4 going into this game, versus the 4-1 top 10 ranked Oregon Ducks. That was the next story that was on ESPN.com. Now, this is the one that really gets me. The Philadelphia 76ers and Detroit Pistons preseason game. I think it might be the last preseason game, however. It should be noted. Very important as we head into Game 1 of this 82-game season. And only then do I come across, I guess at this point, a footnote, because how many people even scroll that far down, of Game 3 of the WNBA Finals before a sellout crowd in Chicago. And it was just unbelievable. I was so irritated and frustrated, and I was pissed, and besides a sellout crowd, besides 2 legends going up against each other, the fact that we're approaching the 50th anniversary of Title IX next year, and the fact that this is the 25th anniversary of the WNBA, and the first time that the Sky are hosting the WNBA Finals. And, I mean, I just can't tell you how disappointed I was. In ESPN, which is not surprising considering their track record and the way that they create narratives at that network. Chicago quarterback Justin Fields was in attendance. I mentioned Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. Chance the Rapper was there, hip-hop artist. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. And USA Basketball and DePaul women's head basketball coach Doug Bruno was there. I mean, there are so many different angles that ESPN could have taken. Then I read a story from the AP about how Chicago played stellar defense en route to a Game 3 victory. Stellar defense? Phoenix scored 91 points in Game 2 in their overtime victory to even the series at 1 apiece. They scored 50 tonight. 50. Stellar? Phoenix shot the lowest field goal percentage in the history of the WNBA Finals. Stellar? Are you freaking kidding me? How about stifling? How about historic? How about arguably the best defense in the history of the WNBA? Like literally, how about Chicago arguably could be playing the best team defense in the history of the WNBA? How about the fact that a woman is coaching the Phoenix Mercury and a black man is coaching the Chicago Sky? Like, how about talking about so many different possible things and creating the correct narrative, at least one of the correct narratives, and instead ESPN has them on page 4, and the AP said that they played stellar defense. The Pistons and Sixers preseason game was ahead of Game 3 of the WNBA Finals. Like, truly unbelievable. Now, I'm a girl dad, and I've coached college basketball for 23 years. I coached men for 15 years, and this is my 15th year on the women's side. And I have educated myself a lot more in the last year and a half. I am much more in tune with things that I wasn't in tune with. But I don't understand at ESPN, if you have people that are of color, women, men obviously, and people from all types of backgrounds sitting at the table, there's no possible way that they could come to the conclusion that on the first page of ESPN, where you have Coach Kingsbury testing positive, the Seahawks are going to put Wilson and Carson on injured reserve. The NFL finds no one else implicated in emails. The Eagles ship Ertz to the Cards for Gowan and a 5th rounder. The Sixers' Simmons won't play in the preseason final. The Panthers' McCaffrey to miss 3rd straight game. The Astros without McCullers for ALCS adds Odorizzi. Browns running back Chubb won't play versus the Cardinals. I don't care about any of these stories. None of them. And yet we cannot find the WNBA finals anywhere on page 1. It's sickening. It's disgusting. And it's another example of how women are marginalized. These women have been at the forefront of advocacy. And just a year and a half ago, they fought to raise awareness for social injustice. Breonna Taylor and the others that have been murdered by police officers unjustly. And to bring attention and unity in order to change policies and to raise awareness and to educate and to force professional sports to care about the person as well as the athlete. The WNBA, who single-handedly, along with a lot of people at the local levels, Stacey Abrams and others, changed 2 elections. 2 elections. Forced an owner of the Atlanta Dream out because of their advocacy. And we can't get the NFL players to strike or even protest 5 years after Colin Kaepernick sacrificed his career and took a knee. The women of the WNBA deserve better. ESPN should be ashamed of themselves. Even the AP, who just simply puts out, quick blurbs about the results of games, etc., should be ashamed of themselves by using the word stellar instead of record-setting, stifling, historic, and making the WNBA women a priority. The other thing I want to talk about is John Gruden. And so he's a pawn in all of this. For those of you that don't know what's been going on, he got fired for emails that he sent over a 7-year period to high up people in various organizations in the NFL that were homophobic in nature, racist, attacked basically the LGBTQ community, owners, the commissioner, the NFLPA president at the time. He just basically went in on women, the LGBTQ community, and people of color. And so it just speaks to the larger issue of the NFL. It speaks to the larger issue of the NFL players not unifying and demanding more so that the leadership positions, coaching positions, general manager positions, ownership groups have opportunities to have people of color in those positions. And instead, the players have chosen to put food on their table. Tom Brady has chosen to be silent in all of this, which is his right. I've been critical many times about Tom Brady. I don't care that he attached his name to a coalition. I don't care that he's helped Antonio Brown out. I care that he hasn't said Black Lives Matter publicly and been very outspoken when it comes to the issues of social injustice and systemic racism. I think that will go down in history in a way that he will not get a pass the way he's been getting a pass. I don't think he should get a pass. He has every right to do what he wants. But in the same way that we criticize Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods early on in their careers for not being more outspoken, there's no freaking way that Tom Brady gets a pass in my book. And as far as John Gruden goes, he's a pawn. It speaks to the larger issues with regards to the racist, good old white boy, I need to hire people who are going to make me comfortable network. Some things need to change. We need to put pressure on social media, the sponsors, like the Washington football team sponsors did, and we need to put pressure on television so that we can change the way that we go about business as usual. I do want to touch on what's been going on between Stephen A. Smith and Kyrie Irving. Stephen A. Smith, for those of you that don't know, works for ESPN. That's about all the credit that I'll give him at this point. Kyrie Irving is a phenomenal basketball player in the NBA. He's won an NBA championship with LeBron James, arguably one of the best ball handlers and point guards in the history of the NBA. Kyrie Irving is an influencer. He is an advocate for social injustice, fighting against systemic racism, for women, raising awareness about mental health, and he continues to be marginalized, especially by Stephen A. Smith, and it's literally disgusting. The way that Stephen A. Smith, too often, because he has shown the other side to be sensitive to Naomi Osaka. And there are countless other instances where I have not disagreed with Stephen A. But it's so difficult to change, in particular, white people's racist views on the black and brown community. That's why I think he being Stephen A. Smith, is doing such a disservice to the black and brown community, his own people, by criticizing the Kwame Browns and the Kyrie Irvings and chalking it up to, well, I give them credit when credit is due, and I criticize them when I disagree with them. And I just think it is the wrong approach to change the disconnect and the two different sets of laws that still exist in black and white America. From small business loans, I spoke to someone who's going to be coming on the show soon, who told me that it's so difficult as a black man to buy a home still in this day and age because they are questioning the funds in his account and probing him as to where the money came from. This stuff still exists. It still happens with education, with healthcare, and with any other systemic issue that exists. Still in today's society, even though life is better for people of color in many respects from 50 years ago or even 20 years ago, but there are still far too many things that are in place, from voter suppression to disproportionate number of African Americans in jail for not only crimes that they didn't commit, but because they didn't get fair representation because of the color of their skin and because of their socioeconomic status, which is the most un-American thing. And so when you get a guy like that, Stephen A. Smith, who criticizes a guy, you may disagree with him. You may agree with Jamel Hill, who basically said if you want to fight systemic racism, put aside some of the past atrocities, murders, lies that have happened as a result of the American government, the CDC, studies that have used people of color. They've been murdered, not only in the United States, but in other countries. And that's fine. But Jamel Hill said if you want to fight systemic racism, you should take the vaccine. It's safe. There are exceptions to every vaccine, every flu shot, every medication. There's side effects, but yet we take most medications even if there's side effects. And so if you want to show other people of color that you're educated and that it is safe for the most part, then you should take the vaccine. So that's what Jamel Hill was basically saying. And a business has a right to protect its brand. I think the NBA has every right to mandate a vaccine just like any business or the state of New York. But the narrative that's been created is wrong, in my opinion. And it should be Kyrie Irving is a strong black man. I am pro-choice, so I applaud him for standing up for what he believes in, making an informed decision based on what he feels is best for him. That's what the narrative should be. This is an incredible black man, influencer, advocate, has done so much to help women, people of color, raise awareness for mental health, and instead it's criticizing him, saying that he should retire instead of giving him some grace to let him figure some things out in the same way that he took some time off for his mental health a couple of years ago in the bubble. So I say that Stephen A. is a pretender, not a contender. He tears down his own people far too often. And I don't know what his agenda is. I don't know if it's ESPN's agenda. I don't know if he's doing it for ratings. He just thinks everything is a game. But I personally am sick of it. I'm sure he could care less. I'm sure most of you could care less about my opinion. But I'm going to state it anyways. Because when it comes to the marginalization of people of color or any minority, especially people of color and women, I just can't be complicit anymore and sit around and not say something. So that's all I have to say about Stephen A. and Kyrie. I applaud Kyrie. I don't agree with him, but I applaud him for being the incredible black man that he is and for standing true to his convictions. And if he changes his mind later, he's allowed to do that. We are allowed to change our minds. You and I have changed our minds plenty of times in our lives based on new findings or new information or coming to different conclusions or whatever the case may be with all the variables that are in place in this new normal that we're living in. Please give people more grace. Please allow people to take the time to make an informed decision. If you have any questions, you have any opinions about this, would love to hear what you have to say. But again, I just could not let tonight go without talking about the ridiculousness of the media when it comes to the respect that the women of the WNBA deserve for everything that they have done, everything they've put on the line to do, to sacrifice. They get paid way less money. They have to go overseas during the off season to make ends meet. They don't have any charter flights. They have to sit in general business class like everybody else, and maybe in first class, but they don't get their own flights, which is just literally ridiculous in and of itself. But with regards to what happened today and being on the verge of bringing the first ever WNBA title to the city of Chicago, with so much history between the Cubs and even the White Sox have a strong fan base, and obviously the Bulls and the Blackhawks and the Bears. And the city of Chicago has such a rich history, in all sports. And now the WNBA is going to be added to that list, I think, when they bring their first title home in a couple of days. So for Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. Remember, Black Lives Matter. Stop the Asian hate. Bet on women. Absolutely 100% bet on women. Women deserve to be at the table where all decisions are made. And clearly that did not happen tonight at ESPN or at the AP. Until next time, remember, it takes a village. Much love. Peace.